Hello friends. When Russian President Putin ordered an attack on Ukraine, the United States and its European allies announced strict economic sanctions against Russia, including in the energy sector. Germany has officially suspended the approval of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline owned by Russia's state-owned gas company, designed to deliver Russian gas to Germany. So how did Moscow retaliate against the West? And how much damage did those actions do to Europe? Let's analyze it together. In theory, the European Union is far more profitable in its economic relationship with Russia. Russia depends on European markets for more than half of its exports, while the European Union sells only 5% of its products to Russia. This disparity reflects the difference in the size of the EU's economy, which is 10 times larger than that of Russia's, and the degree of international trade exposure is also different. Russia is less integrated into the global economy, so Russia will have difficulty when it can no longer sell to Europe. By contrast, no EU country sends more than 20% of its exports to Russia. Although Bulgaria, Estonia and Lithuania suffered the most trade shocks, their exports to Russia account for only 3% and 6% of GDP, respectively. Russia is even less important to major economies like Germany, France, Italy, which account for 1% to 2% of their total exports. Therefore, any potential Russian retaliatory measures against EU imports would have little effect. However, energy is another story, as natural gas has long been recognized as Russia's strongest economic lever in Europe. It remains so, despite the EU's efforts to reduce dependence on Russian supplies. Moscow's ability to exploit that dependence could be exacerbated by the large disparity between the needs of EU member states. Belgium, France and the Netherlands import less than 10% of natural gas from Russia, Spain and Portugal do not. In contrast, Germany depends on Moscow for about half of its natural gas imports and Italy for about 40%. For Austria, Hungary, Slovenia and Slovakia the figure is around 60% and for Poland it is 80%, with Bulgaria alone relying entirely on Russian gas. The disparity in energy consumption is easy to divide within Europe. Many EU countries that import Russian gas do not want to support strong anti-Russian sanctions, because they are concerned that Russia might disrupt or cut off their gas supplies in retaliation. As evidenced by the beginning, Germany and Italy have protested the suspension of Russia's access to the global interbank payment system SWIFT. However, even the European countries that import the most have alternatives to Russian energy supplies. If Moscow turns off the gas, the EU can still cope together, at least for a while. Europe has its gas reserves at about 30%, and some states also have strategic gas reserves similar to the strategic oil and gas reserves of the United States. Based on gas reserves, combined with gas imports from other countries and industrial gas cuts, it is estimated that Europe can hold out until autumn 2022 without a serious shortage. But countries like Bulgaria and Poland, which are heavily dependent on Russian gas and poorly connected to their Western neighbors, will have to significantly reduce their gas needs to keep the situation under control. However, such actions would cause energy prices in Europe to skyrocket, exacerbating an already existing crisis. On February 24 alone, Russian troops crossed the border through Ukraine. The price of gas across the continent increased by as much as 60%. European countries that just pulled their economies up a little after the COVID pandemic can now go into recession when gas prices are higher, leading to higher costs and galloping inflation. It will be much more difficult to run the European economy for several years without Russian gas. In terms of supply, some countries can increase their backup imports from Qatar and the United States. Allies such as Japan and South Korea could also divert some of their excess gas shipments at sea, but completely replacing Russian gas would be costly and even impossible. Global gas markets and other European pipeline suppliers such as Algeria and Norway have been producing and exporting at full capacity. Besides, European countries will have to resort to pretty bad backup plans. For example, in Poland, overexploitation of gas production will cause increased seismic activity around the country's largest gas field, a factor that once caused the country to limit production. Or like Germany, it will have to operate nuclear plants longer, and even start up some dirty lignite plants. With France, they may have to connect more with Spain to buy gas and electricity, then redistribute some to Europe, and of course with these the energy prices will be much higher than with before. In general, in terms of economy, Europe does not lose much when confronting Russia, but in the energy sector, This is a very headache problem. It can even be said to be a matter of survival when winter comes. We see that everyone suffers during war, leaders still have warm blankets and soft cushions, but people still have to eat bombs and bullets, curl up because there is no electricity, no gas to keep warm. So, no matter how much you hate each other, it's best not to go to war. Thank you for watching the video, goodbye and see you again.